The demoralization and social engineering are both fascinating aspects of this, because it suggests that if there is a kind of entropy and decline within the American armed forces, it is part of a deliberate process. And it's interesting to speculate as to why an institution would deliberately undertake deleterious action against itself. And of course, we will cover the domestic issues that are affecting your nation, I hope, over the course of our conversation. I am interested in the escalation of conflict across the globe and its apparent motivation. After the Afghanistan conflict, it appears that very little has been achieved by America's involvement other than the $2 trillion spent, and what the eventual destination of much of that expenditure may have been, of course, obviously and notably the military industrial complex companies like Raytheon and Lockheed Martin and Northrop Grumman, who do, it appears, employ top military personnel who frequently appear on legacy media shows to endorse ongoing conflict. I wonder, is it your personal and obviously professional opinion that events in Ukraine are significantly different from the version that is commonly rendered through legacy media? What is the significance of NATO impeachment on former Soviet territory? What is the significance of CIA involvement in the 2014 coup? How important is it that there are 10 or 12 CIA bases in Ukraine? And indeed, how involved are the United States military in a variety of ways, whether it's through special forces or military advisors, obviously the provision of armaments, diplomatic advice, and of course through guiding and indeed sabotaging potential peace talks. Is it clear that the United States has an agenda, or the United States establishment have an agenda when it comes to Russia? And is it essentially that the United States do not want regional superpowers like Russia or China? Are the American people and the world at large being sold a kind of unipolar power project as variously humanitarian or in support of democracy, or a variety of other smokescreens?
Well, in answer to the 300 or 400 questions you just raised, I would say the following. You have several things happening on different levels. On one level, you have a population in the United States that admittedly likes to think of itself as the center of the universe. We're not very different from the British population before the outbreak of World War I. You know, the attitude was, we've got the men, we've got the guns, we've got the money too. In other words, we're the richest, we're the strongest, and we can effectively impose our will. It took Britain 50 years to destroy itself through 2 world wars. I would even start earlier with the Boer War, probably. But 50 years to destroy itself. We've done this in the space of less than 30. So we've turned out to be more efficient. Perhaps that's part of the communications revolution that you mentioned earlier. So we've got a problem. Americans have been told repeatedly, we're the greatest. You know, it's a sort of a terminal case of national narcissism, that we're the greatest, we're God's gift to mankind and so forth, and we have to bring liberty, justice, democracy, and the American way to everybody. Most Americans are not interested in doing that at the point of a bayonet. And originally, Americans thought of themselves as a people where if we're good, if we're successful, if we're prosperous, others will imitate us, and that's a good thing. Very few Americans ever thought in terms of, we're going to use our military power to sort of export America. And that hasn't worked worth a damn, obviously. So that's one thing. The second thing is that Americans are waking up to the reality that you mentioned. In fact, somebody you should bring on and consider talking to is Nassim Taleb. Nassim Taleb wrote a book in which he describes in great detail this concept of the black swan, the notion that you have black swans swimming around in the financial sector, and it's only at some point the black swan shows up and destroys everything and you have a major crisis. He tries to explain how this happens and how people ignore it. His point is that the people at the top don't have skin in the game. And you've got to keep in mind, nobody has skin in the game in Washington. The only skin they're concerned about is themselves. In other words, they're not going to be committed to anything overseas to fight for anybody under any circumstances. Those are other people's children. And after all, they were dumb enough to volunteer to do this, which is the attitude behind closed doors. So they make everybody feel good by saying, well, thank you for your service. And in reality, what they're saying is, thank God I don't have to be bothered doing this nonsense. It's more like the plumber who comes to fix the toilet that won't flush. You know, that's what you are. Thank you so much for your service. You're flushing the problem down the drain for us. We appreciate it. They're not really interested in it. They don't care as long as the money flows.
Thank God for our commercial partners. They make our life better, and particularly in the case of True Lean's Everyday Wellness, which is an all-natural 9-in-1 powder that boosts immune health, reduces inflammation, promotes gut health, including vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin B12, zinc, turmeric, and echinacea. Is a potion of pure wonder. Everyday wellness, backed by science, inspired by Mother Nature herself. All you got to do is stir these sachets into water and enjoy. Unless you've got one of these glorious big bags. Look, this is like the parent. There it's sort of like cells that are within it. There it's infants, it's tadpoles, as it were. Control your health without prescription. Take that, Big Pharma.
We beat Pharma this year!
I'm feeling better already, and I can just feel Pfizer's stock price plummeting. Spicy citrus tastes like sipping on sunshine. Let me have a sip of that sunshine. The inner light of the Lord is shining from within me. You can visit truelean.com, code BRAND25 for 25% off. Use the code BRAND25, get 25% off. They'll know we work. I tell you what it feels like. It's spicy. It gives you a zing. It's life itself. Now, I'm sorry, my brothers and sisters, my aunts and uncles in Europe, this is only available in the United States of America. If you get some of this, if you don't feel the benefit within 30 days, Truelean will buy it back from you. Even if the bag's empty, you can send them this empty bag. You could even put something in there. I don't know, a stool, a rabbit's paw. They'll give you your money back. That's how confident they are in this product. Try everyday wellness for yourself today. You deserve it. Truelean.com. Use the code BRAND25 for 25% off. Let them know I sent you. It works well for us. God, this stuff's delicious. I can't get enough of it, but then I have an addictive personality. Let's get back to the content.
And they don't care how the money is spent. Now, why is this? Well, part of it is the fact that we haven't faced anybody militarily that we could not easily dominate for a long, long time. The last time we fought an organized enemy in the field, it was the Iraqi military. And that military obviously was in no position to withstand us under any circumstances. But you've got to go all the way back to the Korean War, where you saw an American army almost driven into the sea by a North Korean force. We ended up in this thing called the Pusan Perimeter. And then, of course, MacArthur comes out of mothballs and ultimately retrieves our chestnuts from the fire with Incheon and so forth. But we almost went out of business as an army at that point. We're very lucky that we survived. We haven't had that kind of experience for a long time. Instead, we've had an experience that says, well, here's a PowerPoint briefing, General. These are the targets for today. We're going to do X, Y, and Z. And the enemy sits there and waits for you to show up and exterminate him. This is not war. So we are now in a different situation. We're looking at Ukraine. Russia, in the last 2.5 years, has built up an enormously powerful and successful force. This is battle-hardened, well-equipped, well-led, well-trained, highly disciplined. The Ukrainian force has been annihilated. They've lost over 600,000 dead on the battlefield. There's nothing left. The place is falling apart. And most of the money you were talking about will never get there. It's simply sent through the washing machine over to defense and then to the defense industries, and then the donations flow back to the Hill. So it doesn't, it's not a question of we're sending 60 billion and putting it into Zelensky's hands now. Now, Zelensky and his friends will profit, no doubt about it. Let's not kid ourselves. They'll get some of it. How much? Who knows? I mean, this is the most corrupt country in the world. This is a country that has missing children probably at this point in the hundreds of thousands. Prostitution out of control. I mean, you're talking about criminality on a scale that we in the West can't even begin to imagine. It's a tragedy. It's the worst of all possible outcomes. The Ukrainian nation has been destroyed. Why? Because it's mortgaged to our vanity in the West. Russia must be taught a lesson. Russia must be destroyed. Putin must be removed. Really? Why? Well, because we've decided that we want to strip Russia of its resources. So we turned Ukraine into a battering ram designed to stab Russia in the heart. Well, the Russians woke up, not completely, but at the last minute, and decided, well, we probably should intervene here and stop what's happening and signal just how serious this is in our estimation. So they did, and they found out it's much worse than we thought. The force is much larger, much better trained, has much more equipment. This is a far more serious problem. And as a result, they had to step back, establish a defense, build up their forces, and now they're moving. And they're going to finish the job. Finish the job means everything from Odessa up to Kharkov is back in Russian hands. And those areas are originally Russian anyway, as has been pointed out. The question is, what happens to the rest of the country that is west of the Dnieper River, this rump Ukraine? And I think it's going to become a giant demilitarized zone, a DMZ, similar to what we have between North and South Korea. There will be nothing there. There won't be any fighting forces of any kind. And the Ukrainians can live there, and they may have some form of administration, but they're not going to be permitted to ever again present a direct threat to Russia. You pointed to the CIA stations and laboratories inside Ukraine. The Russians have overrun those. They know what's there. They know what we've been trying to do. They know that we've been experimenting biologically with various weapons that could be used against them. This is insanity. And it was never necessary. No one in the United States supported that. No one in the United States was consulted. So what do? They lie. They create a narrative. Russia is a revanchist nation. Russia is the Soviet Union reborn. We must stop it and defend democracy. That's all crap. That's nothing to do with any of it. And of course, Kiev is not a democratic state. Zelensky is not a democratic leader. He makes Stalin look good. So he's going to go out of business. He's going to vanish here over the next 30 to 60 days. Whether he succumbs to whatever the Ukrainians decide to do with him on the ground, I don't know. I'm sure that his foreign mercenaries that are surrounding him, special ops types from the United States and Britain and other countries, will do everything they can to keep him alive. But at some point, even they may abandon him. But the narrative persists because the media is an arm of the government. This is very similar to what Noam Chomsky wrote about during Vietnam. Manufactured consent creates the illusion that this is something we all want. No, we didn't want it. We didn't ask anybody to open the borders. We did not ask for millions of people that we don't know and know nothing about to come into the United States. And what do we do with millions of people who can't find work, especially if we go into the serious financial crisis that every sane person on the planet is predicting is coming? I mean, what else can we say? I mean, I wish I could paint a positive picture.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more uncensored content where free speech can flourish, join our live stream. Click the link right here to watch the next video if you want to, or become a member of a growing movement. Download the Rumble app and you'll be informed every time we make a new piece of content. Stay free.